out of the open, reveal his true identity, be filmed for videos. He had a sudden massive stroke, which is a typical way that they will go after you, they meaning the New World Order, using either psychic assassins or certain types of technology. So it does seem that Mr. X is a casualty of the truth movement. He's a hero, and we all owe him a great debt of gratitude because he's what started Project Camelot originally. Actually, his testimony is what got me following you guys in the first place. I'm so glad that we've been able to do this now, bring in Richard Hoagland, who I haven't spoken to publicly in a way people can hear in this kind of format in 6 years. Seems impossible. And 6 years ago was when Dr. Eugene Malov was killed right before we were going to go public. So the bullets in the gun are real. Not everyone gets through this alive. There are stakes. But I do believe that what Mr. X said is true. I do believe that disclosure will happen. If it hasn't already happened by the end of 2012, it's definitely going to happen at that time. I don't necessarily think that the way these ETs announce themselves to humanity is going to be by taking over the television airwaves and taking over the radio and suddenly showing up on your computer while you're on the internet. I think instead there is some sort of telepathic shift that happens. As Richard was talking about, a quantum shift in which information becomes accessible to you. And I want to point out something very interesting that I'm using in my new book. Hypnosis, post-hypnotic suggestion. Dr. Cleve Baxter was one of the pioneers of the polygraph for the CIA, and he's also the guy that hooked up his plant to the polygraph and found that his plant would start screaming on the polygraph with a lot of electrical activity when he got the idea in his mind to burn the leaf. But before that, Dr. Baxter was working in hypnosis research, and he found that you could actually give someone a post-hypnotic suggestion where they are totally awake, and yet they can not see someone in the room. They don't hear them, they don't see them. Baxter was able to actually pick up a cigarette and smoke it, and as far as the person was seeing it, the cigarette is levitating and the smoke is just hanging there in the air, but he doesn't see Baxter's body at all. There's another example in the Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot where he's describing his father's friend Tom, who was hypnotized, and the hypnotist told him that he wouldn't be able to see his daughter after he came out of hypnosis. Sure enough, he comes out of hypnosis. He can't see his daughter even though she's standing right in front of his face. He can't hear her giggling. The hypnotist then brings out a pocket watch, puts it in the small of her back, and Tom is able to actually read the watch and read the inscriptions on the watch through her body. Now, here's the really cool part. When he was then brought out of the post-hypnotic suggestion, he remembered everything that happened, and he said, I literally could not see my daughter. It's like she wasn't even there. So I believe that this post-hypnotic suggestion has a lot more mileage on it than we give credence to, because I believe we're all under some sort of hypnotic suggestion right now, which screens out these telepathic influences from what I call the source field, because if you got too many of them, you'd actually go schizophrenic because you hear voices in your head. But I think that after this 2012 point, there is some sort of releasing of this hypnotic suggestion that we're all under, where we see more of the visual spectrum than we see now, where we can hear things that we can't hear, and where a great deal of information becomes instantly accessible to us. I believe this is what the ETs told our world leaders would happen. I believe the world leaders made the logical leap that such a powerful energetic shift would correlate with their own ancient records of what they thought was going to be a catastrophic pole shift, which again, remember, is a misappropriation of what the original ETs in Zoroastrian scripture really said. So I think the ETs didn't tell them that, but they thought it was going to happen. And I believe that's why you see underground bases all over the world, because they're digging in, they're worried about something that's going to happen. I think that's why they run up the deficits, they're running up the bailouts, or now what they call qualitative easing, because they're using this money to get ready for 2012, which they think is going to be catastrophic. I do not believe it's catastrophic. I do believe there's an energetic quantum shift that's going to take place that will make all this information that hypnotically right now we don't have access to suddenly pop into our minds. And therefore, I think it's actually an awakening process. It doesn't happen all at once, but you peel away the layers, and each person has the opportunity to voluntarily decide how quickly they're going to go through this by exposing themselves to information like what you're hearing today. So I do believe, ultimately, the ethical, moral, and spiritual quality of each person does affect our planet's history. That's why I encourage everyone, and I always have, to try to be nice, try to do good things for other people, to try to be humble, to listen to people, to be willing to accept that you're wrong, to accept blame when necessary, and also to take care of yourself. Don't let yourself be a doormat. Don't let people walk all over you. That's the fine line of discernment in the spiritual path between taking care of yourself, which you need to do, and helping others. And so in conclusion, I want to say that this disclosure event is telegraphed in many ancient prophecies all over the world. They talk about the 25,000-year cycle. It's in every mythology. Go back to your Joseph Campbell and go back to Santayana and Von Deschen, which Graham Hancock talked about in Fingerprints of the Gods. Every ancient myth around the world talks about this procession, and they all say that at the end of the cycle there's going to be a golden age. I believe this golden age is so much more fantastic than we can ever imagine, that it's not something that you can even really palpably discuss in a favorable way. I think disclosure may be a very critical moment where some sort of amnesia that we're under is lifted, and it's a critical watershed to get into the golden age, and any spiritual progress that you make on yourself after that happens will not actually have as much leverage. It will not weigh as heavily as what you do now, where you still have the opportunity to be confused. So I think right now is the time that everybody can really go the full mile on their spiritual growth path and really advance and take it to as far as you can. And I believe that very, very powerful and wonderful things, quantum shifts, are going to happen in our future. We don't know when. A lot of insiders have said it's actually 2017, not 2012. Who knows? I'm not prepared for everything to end in 2012. I think civilization will go on, but I think that some very dramatic things are going to happen, and I think disclosure is an integral part of that. And I just want to thank everybody for signing up. It's wonderful that you're all willing to support us financially. I deeply and humbly thank you for voting with your wallets to keep this work alive, to keep us having lights in our houses and food on the table and computers that run. I thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, David, and we really appreciate having you on this teleconference with us. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your energy and your vast intellect and spiritual counsel, as it were. And what we will do at this point is shift it over to Richard Hoagland. I would like to give him a chance to sort of say goodbye to you, at least metaphorically, on the air here, if that's okay with you.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Great. Okay, so one moment here while I switch over to Richard. And I have to say that Richard has been very patient with us. I know he doesn't have that kind of patience for the technology. We're actually operating on two levels at once here. Okay, Richard, you're unmuted. Can you speak up so I know that you can be heard?
Yes, I'm here, and I've just heard David's very eloquent summation, and I must say I concur with 99% of what he just said. Particularly, I really appreciate everyone in the audience who has voted against a lot of opposition this afternoon. I was surprised to see the number of people on Facebook who were attacking the very concept of a teleconference where they would actually pay money and they would hear us discuss these things and present data and, critique each other and all that, as if somehow that's untoward in a society that lauds free enterprise. I want to say again, the people who are paying for this conference are paying in part for this work. No one else is paying for this work. This is the most idealistic, pure, free choice scenario you can imagine. If you want to see progress, if you want to see us, break down more barriers, if you want to see us connect more dots, money and keeping the lights on and the computers going, as David just said, is crucial. And there are no government grants for this. There's nobody we can go to in a program, Obama or otherwise, and get money to do this. This is either supported by people who really want to know how to assemble this matrix into a pattern that makes sense for them and can forecast what's up ahead, or it will simply not take place. So I really want to second David with thanking everybody who participated